Kia ora, welcome into DogZone. What a show we have got for you. The semi-finals of the Christchurch Casino New Zealand Cup and Fitzbar Galaxy Sprint, they have just concluded at Addington Raceway, and we'll have all the information, analysis, box draws for the Rich Group 1 finals coming soon from Andy McCook, who is on track for us. But if you thought that the Melbourne Cup was the most dramatic Group 1 race in Australasia yesterday, I'm not so sure, because at 6:25 there was the Excel Therapy Wanganui distance over the 755 metres at Hattrick Raceway. If you've seen it, it's well worth a watch again. There's lots of things to look for. If you haven't, well, here you go. Enjoy this. The favourite was dog number 6 in the green, Opawa Hillary.
Screamed out goes Claire here. Grunty Mum is out nicely too, and so too is Opawa June. Hunting up the inside, Kamara Park. Gold Star Sydney goes forward. Followed through then by Hot Platter. Gets a rails run through. Couple of links back, No Anxiety. Don't Knock a G's missed the starts at the back. Opawa Hillary taken by Kamara Park. He explodes to the lead a lap out. Kamara Park by 2 to 3 here. On Opawa Hillary, Hot Platter, Gold Star Sydney. Through the inside to Grunty Mama running a race. 3 links back then. We've got Opawa June, Don't Knock a G. And No Anxiety trying to launch. Kamara Park extends by 5 here on Opawa Hillary, Hot Platter, Grunty Mama going huge. Then we've got No Anxiety around the outside of Gold Star Sydney. Kamara Park in front. Opawa Hillary's not done, she's coming. Opawa Hillary the inside grabs Kamara Park, who tied up. Third to go by Grunty Mama, an outstanding performance, and No Anxiety up for 4th. Then Don't Knock it.
Opawa Hillary, who started favourite, gunning down a well-backed second favourite in Kamara Park, and the dog who was a maiden recently, Grunty Mama, side by Buddy Broke, who ran in the Wanganui distance 3 times for a 2nd, a 4th and a 6th, while Grunty Mama runs 3rd for Suan Court Blackburn. But it was Opawa Hillary in a time of 45.35. Let's hear from co-trainer Dave Fahey.
Dave, nice win by Opawa Hillary last night. Let's go back a week though. A pretty rough trip getting them up there, so you must have been stoked they made it through to the final.
Yeah, it was lucky to get through. It was a pretty horrendous trip the week before for the heats. They were standing on the wharf for about half an hour with trains and trucks, and it was quite warm. And then they had to go into kennels on the boat, and they only just made it just before the start of the heat, so yeah, just lucky to get through.
She came up with box 6 for that final, and you probably weren't too happy with that draw?
I thought it wasn't too bad. I thought the 5 might jump out and she might follow it out, but she just jumped first, yeah.
She was able to get the lead. Kamara Park burned her going past the winning post with a lap to go. How were you feeling then?
Yeah, I thought Kamara Park might win it, but yeah, she's pretty strong now and a real stayer, so she really dug in at the end.
Just on the point of the home turn, you could sort of see her starting to make that ground on Kamara Park. Did you think she was sort of close enough to nail them?
Yeah, I wasn't too sure, but yeah, I was happy 50 metres out, yeah.
Of course, she was able to go across to Perth and represent New Zealand in the Nationals. That must have been a big thrill for both you and Robin and the team.
Yeah, it definitely was, yeah. But she's really turned into a really good star now, so yeah, she could have a good year.
In terms of that experience for her, how did she handle going across to Perth?
Travelling doesn't really worry her too much, apart from last week, but yeah, nothing really worries her too much.
We know you're a man that's been there and done that. How did it feel for you representing New Zealand in a race with prestige like that?
Yeah, it was a great thrill, and yeah, hopefully we can get back there one other time next year.
So congratulations again to Dave and Jean Fahey and Opawa Racing Limited, a New Zealand bred stayer. Opawa Hillary winning the latest Group 1, the Wanganui distance, the 2nd edition of this race in 2019. It was won in March by Corborn Taylor for Matt Roberts over Dinah Wesleyan, who of course is now retired, and Hot Platter, who was in yesterday's race as well. In the new season, 2019-20, this race moved in the calendar so that there's a better spread of the Group 1 staying races, hence 2 Wanganui distances for the year of 2019. But an opportunity now to review a fairly dramatic race. A few things went on as we look at the head-on here from the 755 metre start. Well, I've got to say I was expecting Don't Knock a G in the gold rug to be leading Opawa Hillary across. Well, she's missed the start here, and then she's come together with Hot Platter on the black rug, and that's been Don't Knock a G out the back. She actually makes up ground to finish 5th with a bit of drama happening ahead of her. Opawa Hillary made the lead quite comfortably, but Kamara Park drove through the inside, exploded to the lead with a lap to run. Hot Platter lying third with Gold Star Sydney in the pink rug there, and Grunty Mama pushing her way into the race now too. No Anxiety, that's the black and white rug extreme left there, starting to launch some sort of a run. Don't Knock a G also trying to recover. A Power June seemed to get on the wrong leg going to the first bend and lost her good spot. Now at this point I'm about to call Kamada Park home. Then I see he's starting to hit the wall, and Opawa Hillary comes through on the inside. Grunty Mama an outstanding third, and No Anxiety doing her usual late dash that's got her once again into fourth in a Group 1 staying feature. There she is. She's by Basia Bale out of Opawa Michelle, her 11th win at start number 50. And she did a really good job, because in the heats, obviously, the South Island dogs had to travel. They got to the track very late. It was a very rough trip. She got through that. She was obviously in probably a much better headspace coming into the final there. With Kamada Park, look, he exploded away to win his heat, but there was always a fear from the Turnbull Kennel that he would make the lead too early there, and I guess they were probably hoping that Don't Knock a G would lead. So he's got to the lead a long way from home, hence him hitting the wall, despite the week before having blasted away from them the last 100 metres when the pace was effectively set for him. Hot Platter, you saw, got dragged down in the straight there. Now she's come through okay, which is good, because it didn't look good for her, but she was dragged down by Gold Star Sydney when she was under a little bit of pressure. That's the wash-up of the Group 1 Wanganui distance. Yes, the Fahey's to the fore again in another Group 1. And well, speaking of that, as we move into a look at the New Zealand Cup, you've got to talk about the Fahey's again. They have a remarkable record, and if we go back 12 months, what do you remember of Bago Bye Bye? The 2018 New Zealand Cup provided the extraordinary kennel of Dave and Jean Fahey with an 8th winner in the Great Greyhound Race. The winner came from an unlikely source though, Queensland. Bago Bye Bye arrived having to re-qualify to race, which he did in emphatic fashion in September, before winning 6 of his first 7 starts here before the New Zealand Cup Series. Included was a 29.59 second track record at Addington, which still stands, so it was no surprise when he won a cup heat and a semi-final by several lengths. Starting a better than even money favourite in a quality final field, he had to pull out his best to first claim Blazing Carter, then hold out Dinah Dave. Then, as quickly as he had arrived, Bago Bye Bye was gone. Back to Australia, where he dead-heated for 4th in the Australian Cup in Melbourne and claimed another Group 1 success back in his home state, the TAB Gold Cup over 710 metres at Albion Park for owner Greg Watts.
It's Bago Bye Bye, he's Santana, he's got the Gold Cup all won in, Bago Bye Bye.
Bago Bye Bye has been drawn into the prestigious TAB Top Gun distance at the Meadows this Saturday night. The fantastic Fahey run of New Zealand Cup success began in 2006 with Winsome Show. That started a flight of 4 winners in succession.
Back we go to Winsome, blitz up they come though, Winsome Show in nicely. Slingbacks last, but up they come, and Winsome Daisy wins the $100,000 New Zealand Cup. Cosmic Zeus, they turn the corner, Rockabye Lads, size Kamada, Rockabye Lads pulling out the extra, gets home to win, by a length and a half wins the Cup. Some Bucks are starting to wind up, but on the corner, grabbing the lead, subclass the leader, and out of the pack, Winsome Bucks is charging, got home to win it.
In 2010, White Air was a surprise winner for owner Tim Keynes. And then Opawa Swede swept to the title in 2013, a 4th victor for Opawa Racing, loyal supporters of the Fahey Kennel.
Opawa Swede is going away to win the New Zealand Cup.
2016 was the year of American Warrior, who capitalised on a series of suitable wide draws to deliver a 7th for the North Canterbury team.
But in front and clear, American Warrior. Great go for the Miners.
And Bago made it 8 before waving bye-bye. You suspect 8 will not be enough for Jean and Dave. Well, now it's time to get right into the present. Over the last 3.5 hours at Addington Raceway, we have seen 4 semi-finals for the Christchurch Casino New Zealand Cup and 4 semi-finals for the Fit Sports Bar Galaxy Sprint. And on track there for us, DogZone Live. It's Andy McCook. Andy, spectacular racing the last few hours, some tremendous stories and 2 outstanding Group 1 finals coming up on Thursday week.
Certainly has been good racing here, Rozzo, no doubt about that. Obviously headlined over the 520 metres by Nature's Gent. It'd be a story if he could win 2 years after getting his first New Zealand Cup victory here. And over to the sprint, the Fit Sports Bar Galaxy and Bolty going 8 from 8, breaking the 17-second barrier again. But Rozzo, we'll touch on this in a moment. Brilliant to see the box draws. The favourites haven't drawn absolutely perfectly, so there's no laydowns in terms of who's going to be winning these finals, which will make for great racing come next Thursday.
Certainly will. We have box draws and we have markets. The Christchurch Casino New Zealand Cup. Dinah Dave was $5 prior to round 1. He was $2.50 after round 1, setting the time standard for that. He's $2.50 still, Andy, because he was beaten tonight for the 3rd time in a row by Start the Show, who's 4.5. Ray Adcock has a pair in here, double speed off the inside, who does move away from the rail, as we know, to make things interesting. Nature's Gent priced up at 10. Penny Mac at $3.60, who won his semi-final off box 6 for Steve Clark. And of course, he was a finalist last year, like Dinah Dave. Andy, your initial reaction to draw and market?
I don't mind the way Dinah Dave draws up here. I think if he can make one of his average beginnings, he could just flop the rail here. I think he actually begun too good for himself today, and that was certainly his undoing. I'm not minding the box 6 around Penny Mac. He should be able to beat the 5, the 7 and the 8 early, get across them. The question mark for him whether or not he can cross double speed and start the show. And I know I've been spruiking him for some time, Rozzo. I'm hoping he can run a drum, but I'm not minding no refusal off the 8 either. Penny Mac could drag him right into contention coming into the first turn here next Thursday.
Massive wrap for you, Andy. For those who didn't catch it, leading into round 1, Andy McCook suggesting $21 futures top 3 for no refusal. Now in the final is an $18 win chance. That's outstanding tipping and continuing a good couple of weeks from Andy McCook in that regard. Now let's have a look at the semi-finals as they unfolded earlier today. In the first semi, Nature's Gent, the winner from 2017, as Andy mentioned there, comes off box 2. Andy, he leads up 5.87, he goes 17.79, 12.34, fastest qualifier 30.13, he's nearly 5.
He's just a phenomenon, isn't he? And you've got to take your hats off to Ange and Paul with the job they've done with this bloke, keeping him up for so long. Obviously, the big surprise, him leading through the first split. He hasn't shown early speed for some time. The two more favoured to show early speed were Go Vegas and Big Time Shadow. They both blew it and were never a chance from there on in. Thought Max Dancer did good there, Rozzo. Got past Ego Maniacal late in the piece. Just a Class 3 graded runner as Max Dancer. Comes up with a wide draw again for the final next week. And after that placing there, getting home late, maybe a first 4 chance at odds.
Yeah, well, Andy, she's priced up at $26, and for people who don't know much about her, well, she's won 10 from 20, and she was actually the favourite at her 6th start in a Group 1, the St Ledger, back in February on this track, a race which did leave 1, but Nature's Gent powering to the lead there, and the work of Max Dancer there to get up and qualify. That's Big Time Shadow disappearing to the outside, and Andy, once Go Vegas wasn't up on the pace, that was it for him, unfortunately.
I was tea and toast for your favourite as soon as the boxes opened. As we know, he's a greyhound with immense early and mid-race pace, but he's not very strong late in the piece. So once he wasn't in front, he was never going to be winning. And gee, it's just a remarkable story around this dog that won it, isn't it, Rozzo? Nature's Gent. Gee, I said at the start, it would be huge to see this bloke win 2 years after his first Group 1 victory here in the country.
It's remarkable that he's actually made the final. He was knocked out in the semis last year, but now he's actually going into this as a very legitimate chance for the bookie and us syndicate, and I hope they turn up like they did 2 years ago. I'm sure Courtney Turnbull will be down there to handle. As you said, well done to Angela Turnbull and to Paul Freeman. There's a race 11 about to happen at Addington on TAB trackside 2, the Addington Greyhounds, if you do want to bet into that. As we continue with our review of the semi-finals of the Christchurch Casino New Zealand Cup, let's go to semi 2, and this is Penny Mac. He made the final last year. He ran 6th. This is him in box 6. Andy powering to the lead in a 5.84, 17.78 to the back, 12.39 home, 30 and 17, only a touch slower than the gent.
We know how fast he is, Penny Mac, when he can get clear air into the first turn, which is what happened here, and kind of what happens, what maps to happen anyway come next Thursday in the final. Of course, he put a scintillating mid-split on the clock here when competing in the Amazing Chase. Got to the back in about a 17 and 45, which is absolutely phenomenal. He's a greyhound who can put himself forward. He's drawn okay out in box number 6, and he's a realistic winning chance come finals night.
Yeah, for Steve Clark, he trained the winner in 2014 with the Blitzing Mayhem. No refusal into second, Andy. You're a long shot tip, and a very good performance from him to make it for Gary Cleve, who's the only trainer in the final who hasn't won a New Zealand Cup, although he's had a few finalists in the past.
Yeah, he's certainly a talented greyhound, and I touched on it with Crafty earlier, and we'll bring you that interview on next week's show. But he's a talented greyhound whose form is much, much better than it reads on paper. If you go back and look at some of his efforts, he's been coming with Dinah Dave from the sprint boxes to the winning post. He just hasn't had luck, and he's been running wide as he is wanting to do. Some super efforts from him. He's a very underrated type, and Rozzo, I think he's a serious place chance come Thursday evening. And of course, I have to say that I spooked him at 21. But he's a chance from the draw.
Well, you've got to be sitting next to me, and I tell you what, I think I might have to bring the earplugs if no refusal makes a run. And you've got to say, Diddley was very unlucky there not to make another Group 1 final. I think Kiwi Gal was leaning out on him a bit into the bend, and then Youtha Bale came across and smacked into Diddley, and both of them lost significant momentum there.
Gee, isn't Youtha Bale a name we're going to hear a bit in the future? He's a pretty promising type. He won a Class 1 race 2 starts ago. He's now competing and been unlucky in a heat of or a semi-final even of the New Zealand Cup. He's a pretty serious dog. Diddley unlucky as well, as you said. Kiwi Gal, who couldn't find the early lead, that was always going to be problematic for her. But, gee, Diddley good. He's been unlucky a lot of late, Rozzo, and that's unfortunate for his connections.
Yes, well, they were out in force at the New Zealand Greyhound of the Year Awards recently, where he was among the finalists, and so was Nature's Gent, of course, in the title won by Dinah Wesleyan. Right, let's go to semi-final number 3, because the series favourites in this. It's Dinah Dave off the 1. We saw him draw the red, Andy, and we got pretty excited about it. We saw him beaten twice in the preludes by Start the Show, once when Start the Show won and another time when it ran second. Andy, at this point of the race, Dinah Dave being leaned on by Big Time Rod, and I really feared that he wouldn't make the big dance.
We had one of our cameramen at the boxes with a little handheld camera, Rozzo, into the first turn. He said all he heard from Craig Roberts was, uh-oh. And I think that's what everybody who was on him at the $5 was thinking. It's been a super effort from him to qualify, there's no doubt about that, but we've kind of come to expect those big late bursts from him. To be fair, Rozzo, I've only seen the replay once or twice, but to me, he almost begun too good for himself. He was sort of underneath him early, it was a little bit tight, and then unfortunately, Big Time Rod just came charging across and put the shoulder into him. So maybe if he had him off the start a little bit worse, he might have got a cleaner run than what he did.
And Andy, we've got to talk obviously about Start the Show, 5.82, 17.95, so the early splits were a bit down on the other two semis that we've already seen, but he's come home in 12.30, and of course he's from a repeat mating. The first mating brought Ring the Bell, dual silver collar winner.
Yeah, he's a talented type. He's another underrated type. He tends to go around probably paying more than he should. Spoke with Ray Adcock earlier, and again, we'll bring you that on next week's preview show, but a little bit of a concern with his lack of immediate box speed at box rise, and obviously, Rozzo, there's some concern the Ray Adcock team drawing 1 and 2, and probably the wrong way around.
Yes, that is unfortunate. We'll look at double speed very shortly. What about Ray Adcock, though, Andy? Look, we call him the master. He can fling all manner of titles around frivolously at times, but not with Ray Adcock. When we call him the master, it's what we mean. He trained Prophet Galore to win the race in 1988. Here he is with 2 very legitimate chances in the 2019 edition.
It was all about Dunsandel here tonight, wasn't it, Ray? Getting those 2 heats of the Cup. He also won a heat of the Galaxy with Floridora. And, of course, his understudy, Rozzo, who's doing some marvellous things in the training ranks, already getting Bolty home as well. So 4 of the heats going to the Ray Adcock property.
Yes, well, it's time to have a look at the 4th semi-final of the Christchurch Casino New Zealand Cup, with the top 2 going through. And here we have double speed coming off box number 4. Now, the one we were watching here, hot favourite was Robson off the inside. He's pushed out as a couple have come down on him. and he's got off the pace here, but it's double speed leading up front. Other to watch is Opawa Deal and the Black Rug, Andy, and Robson was no chance of a recovery from here.
Exactly, he's the biggest shock non-qualifier. Obviously, things went wrong for him from a fairly early stage. What can we say about the winner? He's a consistent type, double speed, and I don't think Ray or the connections will mind me saying he's certainly not the best greyhound going to this final, but what he is consistent. He can put himself in the early hunt, and he tends to do that most weeks. He's a greyhound who's won 14 from 60, and Rosso, like I said, consistency, and in these big races, that can be a key, especially to the first turn.
You certainly, and look, it comes up with that the box one record actually reads really well on paper, doesn't it, Andy? That can belie the fact that he's a dog who likes to push out, and look, he copes with it okay himself, but it's the issues for the dogs that are drawn next to him in the final. We've got Start the Show and Dinah Dave the nearest to him, and he's going to be leaning out a touch on them.
Certainly barring what the stats say, he's a much more comfortable greyhound when he draws in the middle, as you can see there. Runs a relatively straight line into the first turn, as opposed to off the inside where he does push off the fence. So things could get tied. Unfortunately for Ray Adcock, it could be his other greyhound Start the Show that cops the worst of the right-hand shoulder there from double speed going into the first turn. Rosso, the second greyhound, Opawa Deal, he's inexperienced as well. 22nd start tonight. He's won 14 races, makes his way through to the first of what will no doubt be many Group 1 finals he'll make over the next 12 months, especially with his restricted age year in front of him.
Yes, certainly, Andy. I want a comment on one other dog here too. It's second ballot, Barrel Runner. It's won one race, and yet it has come through the series and been good enough to land as the second ballot, and there's been plenty of good dogs go by the wayside in this series.
He's a greyhound who's won 1 from 28, and his connections, Ash and Pete, they won't mind me saying this, that has got nothing to do with a lack of ability. It's all in the top 2 inches with Barrel Runner. If you go back 3 starts, he was huge in behind Opawa Toddy in rivalries. He would have put them to bed if he wanted to on the home turn. Ran beside them up the straight, and that's the unfortunate problem they have with him. Rosso, big effort to get second reserve as a Class 1 greyhound, and 1 from 28, he's a dog with a much bigger motor than what that would indicate.
Andy, we're going to take you back to the market. We'll chew on it, see if we can find some value. Look, you've found the early value for us with No Refusal, 21 top 3, now $18 to win. Dinah Dave, 250, so he hasn't moved. He was 250 going into the semi-final. Do you see him as backable at that? I guess people who are sitting there with 5s prior to round 1 still feeling okay about things.
Yeah, the $5 prior to the first round, if you're sitting there, you're very happy. Not sure I could take 250. I think he's drawn to get a handy enough run, but gee, 250 for a greyhound with his racing style, gee, it's just short enough. I'd be probably more inclined to take the 360 around Penny Mac, greyhound who draws with no real speed around him, so he should get clear air early, and I thought the $3.60 was a backable price around him. And gee, what about the Gent? I know he's come up with box number 5, which isn't ideal, but there is a lack of early speed. If he can come out like he did today, Rosso, he's not the worst.
Oh, Andy, I do honestly believe he's the value there, and certainly backable at in the top 3 market when it comes out. If he's priced up at $10, he's had 8 goes from the Gold Rug. He's paid a dividend every single time. He's won a couple of them. He was able to win his first New Zealand Cup off box number 4. Like you say, a repeat of tonight's beginning. He puts himself right in the picture. Look, Andy, I thought the story was him getting to the final, and that was it. Well, that's not it. He's a very legitimate chance.
He's realistic, there's no doubt about that. I think there's probably 3 or 4 legitimate winning chances going through to next Thursday's final. And Rosso, that makes for great viewing, it makes for great turnover, it makes for a great punting story as well come next Thursday, because this is not a one-dog race and there are many, many winning chances.
And it's not a one-race card either on Thursday the 14th of November. The Christchurch Casino New Zealand Cup goes for a stake of $125,000. But we also have the richest short course sprint in the country, the $30,000 Fit Sports Bar Galaxy. And we had 4 semi-finals for that tonight after 12 heats last Friday. And Andy, we've come up with this for a final field and market. Now, the 3 dogs I think would instantly look for here: Bolty, box 5 to 10, Buddy Boom, box 4, $4.20, Select Trick, box 3, $4. The 3 dogs who caught the eye most today, Andy, have drawn right alongside each other.
Yeah, and it's very awkward for the favourite, and I'm sure there are people out there that are more than happy to get involved in 2.10 around Bolty because he was able to win off box 4 today. The difference is today he was still drawn to get room even from an awkward draw. This final was completely and utterly different. Buddy Boom with speed and doesn't rail. Mustang Tully to his outside who can come across them. So Trojan Horse off the 8, another greyhound who can come across. So Rozzo, he won't get things all his own way here. He's still the best greyhound. He's still the on-top selection. But gee whiz, he's going to have to be on the top of his game to win this Group 1 at start number 9.
Let's work our way through the 4 semi-finals held at Addington Raceway just a matter of minutes ago, some of them. Select Trick here off box number 7, working to the lead first. Bend, 583, 11 and 27, building on what she did last week in the heats. Andy?
Yeah, she's a talented type, the Select Trick, a greyhound we're going to see a lot of in the coming months. There's no doubt about that. I know Callum Ware was spruiking her fairly decently before she had her first start. He told me he had a lot of time for her. She's a greyhound who we saw leg it to the lead on debut. Not as way as fast today, but she's got an extra couple of days to recover from this through to next week's final. And Rozzo, I think she's a serious winning chance come finals night.
Andy, she's been 17-10, 17-11. Is that suggesting that that's kind of about her, and is that going to be good enough?
She has trolled here in 17.04 in the past. She clocked a 5.75 early when she did that. 5.83 her first split today. I'm happy with how she's drawn. I think she can stay underneath Buddy Boom early. I think there's no doubt that Bolty's the fastest greyhound, and if he gets a clear run, then no, 17.10 isn't going to be quick enough. But if there is a little bit of tightening and buffeting in the middle of the pack, which there could be, 17.10 could be very much good enough comes finals night.
Andy, the second dog, Trojan Horse, can't go unnoticed. He's a 2-time Group 1 winner from last season. Of course, he was a finalist in the New Zealand Greyhound of the Year Awards as well. Derby winner, Breeders' Stakes winner, and since he's been switched back to a sprint by the Cold Kennels, he's done extremely well. He gets box 8 in the final. He's an experienced campaigner. If there was to be drama closer in, Trojan Horse could really put in.
Oh, no doubt, he's a fast greyhound. We've seen him put some times on the board to back marks at Wanganui that would suggest sprinting is right up his alley, and we've seen that it is now since dropping back in Journey. He's a quality greyhound as Trojan Horse, and it'd be no surprise to see him whistling around them into the first turn and getting himself into the minor money.
Andy, time to look at semi-final number 2 and the dog, the name that's on everybody's lips, and it's a short name, it's a sharp name, and he's short and sharp in terms of the way he can sprint. But there he was again, just standing there with about 3 dogs ahead of him. Then he explodes through the gap. Now, you said to me this gap would be there for him, and it was, and he took it. 5.87, 11 flat, 16.87. Again, just truly breathtaking, 8 from 8 for the dog.
He's an amazing athlete. So I can only think off the top of my head of 2 greyhounds that I've ever seen break 11 seconds here. One was a dog called Clone Your Own, and the other greyhound did it in a solo trial. His name was Berridale Laird, who was a Group 1 performer who placed in a New Zealand Cup. He's run 11 dead in 2 of 8 performances here at Addington, or overall 2 of 7 here at Addington Raceway. But certainly the key there is that head-on, Rozzo. Plenty of early space. He wasn't fast away. He was able to get his big legs pumping into the turn, and that's key to his winning chances. That gap is not going to be there come Thursday night, so he is going to have to work.
Andy, Big Time Kiss has run second here, and a clear second, and given the time of the winner, she's gone outstandingly well. She is a sister to the late Big Time Pete, so consolation here for the BBC Syndicate and the Lisa Cold Kennels here, because of course they lost Big Time Pete, who was the New Zealand bred Greyhound of the Year last season, but Big Time Kiss has made a Group 1 final for them, and she's run a bit of time tonight, albeit in the shadow of Bolty.
She's a talented enough greyhound, though, so I thought her first up performance here in the heats was a pretty good effort, considering most of the Cold team that came down that week hadn't really copped the track. I know she'd had the benefit of a look here, but with this Whistler on the lure, it does just trip the odd greyhound up. She's had 2 looks here now, and I think she's a realistic chance come finals night, and another greyhound who you'd certainly want to be having on your trifecta and first 4 tickets.
Yes, certainly, and Andy, we lost a couple of heat winners in there, Captain Kev and Blitzum Renee. Of course, Buddy Boom is through. We'll have a look in a moment there. But Andy again, Jared Udy and Denise Cottam coming down. The Steels as well, the Northern Travellers, and they got it right this year, and they really made an impact.
They certainly did. Jared brought the team down last Tuesday, gave his sprinters a look at the track on that day before the heats on Friday. He stayed down the whole week, and it certainly paid dividends for him. They were able to win 4 heats here last week, which was phenomenal, really. And, gee, I tell you what, Rozzo, we went out and celebrated that as well.
Did you? Really? Andy, you shocked me. Buddy, boom. This is what can happen when you do this. Bring the dog down. He came down for an early race. Then, of course, that trial that you just mentioned there. And then, Andy, he comes out like this, 5:75, 11:35. Now, that lead up, 17:01 overall, that's going to be critical come final time, because it doesn't matter how fast you come home if there are dogs in your face.
Exactly, he's a really speedy type, this, and the form line looked a bit ugly there for a while, but he didn't have a lot of luck. He had an injury, he tore a dew claw which had to be operated on and removed. He then went to Auckland and things went horrible for him there in a fresh state. He just about put himself over the rail past the 600 metre boxes. He's been good down here. He's been really, really good down here. I've basically been calling him the northern equivalent to Bolty, Rozzo, and that's what he is. You look through his record, 17 from 27. He's a phenomenal type of greyhound with immense speed, and he can give them something to think about. He's a definite winning chance.
And punters, it's closing in on start time, race number 12 there at Addington Raceway tonight. You can catch up with that live race on TAB Trackside 2 as we continue our look back at the Galaxy semi-finals, and we go to the last of them. And if it wasn't enough for Ray Adcock to get a couple through to the Cup final, what about Floridora into the final of the Galaxy and into box 1 too? But she was in box 3 here, Andy, and she had to work hard around Colby Ness. Tremendous also to see the Tony Hart, Kirsty Taylor combination get a runner through to the Group 1 as well.
It looked the most even heat on paper, and that's how it prevailed. The favourites drew awkwardly in 4 and 5, Super Over Drama and Kiwi Boy. Kiwi Boy certainly didn't pick the jump like he did last week, and he was able to check Super Over Drama a little bit as well. So things went wrong for them. Floridora and Colby Ness able to take advantage of that. They've both got a little bit of early speed. I'm not entirely sure we'll see the winner come from this heat. I think they'll both find one or two a little bit too fast for them, but Rozzo, certainly a big effort to qualify through to next week's final.
Yes, certainly, and Floridora's right in the zone at the moment, Andy. She's running as well as she can, and obviously that's not Bolty or Buddy Boom times, but it's competitive times in Class 5. And of course, we remember not so long ago Ray Adcock producing a railway sprint winner up in Auckland with Rosa T.
Exactly, we know he knows how to put the polish on them, there's no doubt about that, and might be a little bit of kennel rivalry come Thursday, Rozzo. Floridora taking on Bolty. Oh, might be an interesting car ride home if Floridora beats him.
Well, Andy, for people who are tuning in and not sort of aware of it, Ray Adcock he celebrated his 85th birthday not so long ago, and he has been dominant for such a long period of time. And it hasn't been about number of winners that he's trained or anything like that, Andy, but I remember when I first got into greyhound racing, it was really about the professionalism that Ray brought to what was really an amateur sport, if you like. And of course, things have advanced a lot since then. We owe a great deal to Ray Adcock. But he's also mentored a lot of people along the way, and John McInerney was obviously one that springs to mind all those years ago. And John was the owner of Profit Galore, who won that 88 New Zealand Cup there, trained by Ray Adcock. And now we see young Daniel Lane with the Adcock polish on as well, if you like.
Yeah, he's a fella who's never shy to tell you if you ask him, and that's the big thing with Ray. He won't come out and say, you're doing this wrong, you need to do it like this. But if you ask him the question, he's a wealth of knowledge, there's no doubt about that. Dan Lane's certainly coming through, and he's getting plenty of that knowledge. Mike Fuller, another one who started up training here recently in Canterbury, that came through and has learnt plenty from Ray as well. He's a great bloke as Ray. We all know him, we've all spoken to him, and it's really good, Rozzo, to see him on course here tonight. And he was here with Donald and Josie Arthur, just enjoying and taking in Bolty, and I got a chance to talk with Ray, and he's just stoked to have a couple of greyhounds through to the finals.
Oh, I've got no doubt about that at all, Andy. Look, we're going to have a look at the market again and to get your thoughts around where this sits. Now, people might say, look, 8 from 8, Bolty, clearly the fastest dog and consistent times in all races so far without missing a trick. $2.10, bang, let's get on. But you're telling me, no, it's not as easy as that.
No, I don't think it is. I couldn't take the $2.10, and to be fair, going to the first turn here in a week's time, $2.10 might just look like money for old rope, but there is enough speed drawn around him and enough to say that he might not get a clear run here. He could still get checked and win the race. I'm not saying he can't, but I couldn't take the 210 risking that. I think there's some value around a dog like Big Time Kiss for a place. Those odds I haven't seen yet. I'm not sure if they're out, but she looks a place chance. I'm pretty keen on Select Trick. I think she's a greyhound we'll see plenty of in the coming weeks and months over the short course journey here in NZ.
And Andy Callum Ware, of course, had the great swimming goat go back-to-back recently in recent years in this particular race and has Select Trick. But also Mustang Tully, and we didn't really give her much credit for qualifying there. She's come to New Zealand with a very, very good winning strike rate out of Australia. And look, improvement out of the first couple of runs for her in NZ.
She picked the jump a little bit better today than we've seen the first two attempts, and I think that's key to her. I spoke to Callum before she raced today, and he said, hey, over in Aussie, she was the lid pinger, and that's what we should expect from her. It was good to see her begin better today. I think at her best, if she begins at her best, she can get in the face of a couple of these greyhounds and make things interesting into the first turn. Before these greyhounds lined up, though, Callum suggesting to me Select Trick was definitely the better of the two, despite their records. And Ros, I think what we've seen from them, and especially with the draw as well, that Select Trick, the better of the two wear chances come Thursday night.
Andy, I always face semi-final night or heat night around Group 1 races with some trepidation because I am concerned that perhaps some of the best dogs, some of the best stories will get knocked out. That hasn't really happened. Look, obviously I would have liked to have seen Robson and I would have liked to have seen Diddley in the Cup, for example, but I think we've got outstanding Group 1 fields there with a lot of stories, with some experienced and the kennels that you'd expect, but also one or two as well who don't often or have never had Group 1 runners. So I think we've got a bit of everything come Thursday week, the 14th of November.
There certainly are a lot of talking points, and we'll cover a few of those next week as well on next week's preview show, where we have an hour to go over these. It's really good, Rosso. As I said, it's even better that the favourites haven't just drawn to win, because it gives everybody a little bit of a talking point. It means that there are many chances. Rosso, and now long to go over all the stuff next week, and we'll bring you some trainer thoughts as well immediately after they qualified here, especially around the New Zealand Cup, and I think that'll be critical heading forward to Thursday night.
Yes, and Andy, also we'll have Philippa Morris as part of that to break up the monotony of me going on and on about the history of the race and you going on and on about $21 the place, no refusal. So Pip to liven that up if anyone was thinking about not tuning in at 8:30 next Wednesday night.
Patrick Chapley, our producer, I feel really sorry for him come next week, Rosso. He's always chirping at us to get us to hurry up. Next week's just going to be an absolute shocker for him.
Indeed, and on that happy note, we will bid you farewell tonight and hope that you can join us for that preview show next week, and of course join us for the Group 1 races coming out of Addington on Thursday night of Cup Week, and that will be the 14th of November. For now though, I can bid you happy punting.
I knew from the first time I stayed for a long time, 'cause I like me better when I'm with you. I don't know what it is, but I got that